As a new business owner, especially somebody who's in the coaching space, when you first start off on this journey, you're really excited about who it is that you can help and sharing your gift and sharing your message with the world. And oftentimes business owners who start out on this journey are often hit hard with the fact that they don't know how to grow their business. In this episode, I have a conversation with Sharla Jacobs with Thrive Academy, who works specifically with coaches and holistic practitioners to help them build their business. And she provides valuable insight into the steps and the sequence of building a strong, long-lasting business so that you, the coach and the practitioner, can express your gifts and help the people in the world. Hey, Sharla, I'm so glad that you're able to make the time to connect with me today and talk about the upcoming forum and what you're going to be teaching our audience about how to attract new clients. But before we get into that, can you tell us about Thrive Academy?
Sure. Well, I want to say, I'm just so honored to be here and so excited. And in a little bit, I'll actually tell my story of how CEO Space was really instrumental in our business being as successful as it is, and super excited to give back to the community. Sure. So Thrive Academy has been called the #1 source for turning coaches and holistic practitioners into six-figure transformational leaders. Over the last 16 years, we've had over 10,000 people come to our live and in-person events, which have now been pivoted to online events during this time. And specifically, we teach coaches and holistic practitioners how to attract more clients and have their first 10,000 a month. Our members have earned over $100 million collectively. And really proud to say that, this work for us is really about making a bigger difference in the world, like that ripple effect of teaching the people who are healing and empowering others to reach more of their clients. Now, we're going to be teaching at CEO Space, and not everyone is a coach, holistic practitioner, or healer. So obviously looking at the principles and how we can broaden those so that they're effective for anyone who is needing to attract clients right now, especially in this climate that we're in. But it's just, so much, there's so much chaos, and there's so much pivoting and adapting that's happening in addition to the heartbreak that we're dealing with in our world. And so it's a really interesting time to be still running your business and still wanting to do the great work that you do.
Absolutely. I always like to ask this question when I'm speaking to people. What is the one problem that you solve for your customers? If you could pick one thing, what is that one thing that you do for them?
We take people who are good at what they do, like have a gift for the world. And what people don't realize is that the skill of being good at your modality or the thing that you deliver is different than the skill of attracting clients. There can be overlap, and particularly with people that do coaching and healing and holistic practice, that there is definitely overlap there. And so it's like finding, like, how do we show up in service when we're in the conversation for a potential client, or when we're putting out our marketing for the potential client. So that really clear problem is, how do we bridge that gap between what our people are looking for and what we offer? And that's really one of the main things that we solve as a first step. There are many steps that come after that, but as a first step, how do we figure out the main problem that we solve, as you're building your own business? And how do you connect with your potential clients in a way that they are compelled to want to reach out to you and to take a next step?
When you have a new client that comes to you, what are some of those common challenges that they'll talk to you about? What is their life experience like? What is it like to be in their shoes?
I would say when people come to us, they have oftentimes found their life purpose. They know they're meant to be doing this work that they're doing. They feel it in their heart and soul. They love the work. A lot of times it feels like they got this training, but they had a gift or a talent for it. And I understand that for myself. When I found coaching, it was like the heavens opened up for me, it was like this moment where I felt like I found the thing I'm supposed to do in my life. And there's that joy and that passion that's fulfilled, and yet that struggle of not understanding how to make the business work. So that's one piece. Inside of that bigger challenge, other smaller challenges, learning how to talk about what they do in a way that's compelling for people, learning how to get their metaphorical phone ringing. Now, September, you and I are not millennials, right? So we can talk about the phone ringing, right? But that's the metaphor, as in getting a text or getting a private message or getting an email or getting a contact from your website. Like, how do you actually set things up so that you are more likely to have people take that action? How do you have a conversation with a potential client that turns into a yes? Including, how do you dance with the concerns that come up when people want to work with you, but money or time or getting approval from their partner or something like that is an issue. So there's a series of steps that we go through, and it's a system that I will teach during the forum about how do we actually walk through this system and make these little tweaks along the way, so that as we are better in each of these problems, like getting our phone to ring or talking about what we do or having the conversation with a potential client, that as we get better at each and one of those, our business becomes exponentially more successful at attracting the right clients.
I want to shift the conversation to getting the phone to ring. Let's start there. That's been mentioned that a couple of times. And I know for me, in my experience, looking back, there was a period where I thought, well, I'm not going to get on to Facebook because it's only going to produce like 1 or 2 leads maybe. Well, I won't go over here because it's only going to give me 1 or 2 leads here. So, but looking back, when you combined all of these platforms, those add up. Those 1 or 2s adds up. What kind of advice do you have for people in this arena, the service base, the coaches, when it comes to attracting new clients, especially if they're new? Because like you said, there's this, oh my God, I found what I'm supposed to be doing with my life, what I'm meant to do, that impact that I'm going to be making, and I'm going to go out there and make it happen. And then they jump into business and they quickly learn that passion that they have for what they're meant to do in life does not translate into, I all of a sudden know how to run and grow a business.
That is heartbreaking. I mean, that's my story. You just shared my story right there. And the stories of the thousands of people that we've worked with, that is the story. It is heartbreaking to be in that position and to not know how to get the phone to ring. And what I think, there's this sequencing, there's an order of things to do things in that many people mess up. Most people try to jump right into getting their phone to ring. They think, I'm starting my business, I'm going to get clients right away, I'm going to do whatever these things are, I'm going to go on Facebook, I'm going to send emails, I'm going to post flyers, I'm going to give a workshop, I'm going to ask for referrals. There are 10 client attraction strategies that we teach in our programs. And I can talk about that in a moment, but I want to zoom out a little bit and talk about the bigger picture.
Okay.
There are phases to growing your business. There's an order and a sequencing. And we really talk about like 3 phases. There's clarify, attract, and expand. Clarify, attract, and expand. Within the clarify phase, this is where we really have to step back and make sure that the way we're communicating about what we have to offer is connecting with what our ideal clients are looking for. And the problem is that unless you get that right, and I hate to say the word right because it's like, it can be, you might connect with a couple of people, but unless you really get your communication strategy right, it's going to be really hard to move on to the attract phase. So when people try to jump right into attract without having any education or any understanding of what it takes to have people want to reach out to you, it's just like, trudging uphill in a cold, snowy day, and the snow, like the wind blowing in your face, and just feeling so dejected. However, when you step back and you say, okay, what do I need to do to clarify my message? One of those things that you need to do is to get your client attraction code statement. Now, this is a distinction that we made up, and it consists of 5 different phases or 5 different steps. So I'll go through those steps now. The first one is you've got to determine your niche. You asked me right away, what is the problem that you solve? At Thrive, we define it as the urgent problem you solve, and for whom. Now, for a lot of people in service-based industries, or like as a coach or holistic practitioner, that there is no focus on that. It's all about the modality that you learned. It's all about the thing you do. And we need to actually shift and be like, okay, why are people going to sign up with you? What are they dealing with? What are they actively looking for a solution for when they are starting to search for someone. And if you can say that you do that, then they're going to be a lot more likely to work with you. An example of this, when Jesse and I first started our coaching businesses, and Jesse Korn is my husband and business partner, we've been doing this together for 16 years. When we first started, we were so excited about coaching. It was like his first business name was Eye of the Storm Coaching. And it was like, it was so process oriented, making that mistake of either making it about title or making it about process. Instead, we want to make it about the urgent problem that we're solving and for whom. So that's choosing our niche. And I'll tell you, the very first time I heard the concept of niche, I was sitting at CEO Space. It was called something else back then, but I was sitting in the room, and one of the faculty members was saying this, and we were coaches. And I remember, like, Jesse and I were like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. We really didn't think that because we were about helping people live the life of their dreams. And so there is a problem in a lot of the trainings that are out there, that they as a company who are training people in their modality are so excited about the modality that they're not acknowledging that that doesn't work in attracting clients, to be just so excited about the modality. So we've got to get clear about that. Once we get our niche, then we have our first version of our what do you do statement, which is simply a way of saying, how certain people have this problem while I help them get this solution. That's our first draft. Then the next step is to get clear about our positioning, because I will tell you, one of the biggest mistakes that almost everybody makes when they're sharing what they do is not creating credibility. And if you don't create credibility within like the first 20, 30 seconds of what you have to say, then people aren't going to listen to you. You're going to sound like everybody else. You just put in the sea of everybody else. So you've got to create credibility. And the fun thing about this is there are actually 17 different ways to create credibility. 6 of them work if you're just starting out. So for example, one of those ways to create credibility might be your own story. We call it your hero's journey story. And this is actually step 5 in the process I'm talking about clarifying your message. That when you can share your story about why you care so much, it's one of these beautifully unique ways that people understand that you have been where they've been, and that you understand their problem because you've been through it. So that's just one way. I've seen other folks. I could give an example of one of our members, Wendy Petty's, who is a dear friend of mine, and actually somebody that we're consulting with right now. She's a Black woman that I respect tremendously, and she's someone that we're consulting with right now as we're dealing with some of our own issues around racism in our community. And when she came to us, she had an MBA and was doing work around like happy life coaching for Black women, right? And we're trying to find a way to really marry those things. Like, how do you actually take something that seemingly has nothing to do with the work that you do, and how do you marry those things? How do you dovetail? So for some of you, what you're doing now is a second career, and yet you're new at it perhaps, but how do you take credibility from the past and bring that into what you're doing right now? So for Wendy, she got to tell the story. For a while, she was being the Black woman sex and relationship coach. And for a while, she got to tell the story that she was, had her MBA and was in a job where she was just treated horribly and had a boss that was awful to her. And she had to figure out a way to like make that transition to do the work that she loves now. So she gets to share that credibility of her past life, so to speak, and bring it into the work that she's doing now. And then she would say, now I help women, Black women, have the life they want. So that's an example. Another example is Melissa Seaman, who came to us, and she had been a Stanford educated attorney and accidentally turned psychic while giving birth to her daughter in the year 2000. What a fascinating story, right? So now she gets to say, so she gets to combine the psychic wisdom that she has as an intuitive healer and her history and her background as an attorney. She was a business attorney. And when she started her healing business, she was, failing badly, falling on her face, couldn't make it work. So now when she talks about this, now she works with Fortune 500 executives, visionary leaders, just does all of this beautiful work, and she gets to combine that. And so sometimes one of the funnest things is just to like dig into your past and to go through and find out what is that piece that gives you a certain level of credibility, so that you're not just answering with the typical what do you do statement. Like, I could say, September, you could have asked me, what do you do, Sharla? And I could have said, we help coaches and holistic practitioners learn how to attract clients and have their first 10,000 hour month. And that is what we do, but that's not how I answer the question. I answer it with a level of credibility that has people want to listen to what I have to say. So one way of saying, how do you answer the question, what do you do, is there's the who, the what, and the why. Who do you serve? What problem do you help them solve? And why should I listen to you? And if you can answer those three questions when you share what you do, you will be much more poised to have people wanting to talk to you. So this is just one example we've got. So to review, step 1 was niche. Step 2 is getting a basic what do you do statement. Step 3 is getting your positioning, choosing at least one of the credibility builders. Step 4 is your hero's journey story. And then step 5 is putting it all together and wordsmithing it. So we really broke this down into a repeatable, templated step-by-step process. That's the client attraction code. Once you get that, then then we can move into the attract phase, which is choosing one of the 10 client attraction strategies to start. You had started, September, by asking me, like, I could go on Facebook, I could go on email, I could do this, I could try chat, I could try all of these different strategies. And I think one of the most important things for people is to really choose, like, getting really clear about your business model, meaning they're parts of it, like how do we deliver our service, but then what is the most effective strategy to have my phone ring, quote unquote phone ring, to have somebody turn into a paying client, because there's like basically attracting people, getting your phone to ring, and then there's converting, the conversion strategy. And once we get really clear about that, we want to get really, really good at one strategy, and then we can add others as we go. I think one of the biggest mistakes people make is they try, 10 different things, and you can't spread yourself too thin like that. You can't get really good at one strategy. So I will say that when it comes to like, what's the simplest strategy for most people, especially in any kind of a service-based business, I would say that the strategy is to offer consults of some kind of a free consultation. You could call it a strategy session. I like to give it a cool name. When our coaches that work, our Thrive Summit coaches that work in our business and that talk to our potential clients, it's called the Attract Clients Now strategy session. And during that session, the commitment is it's not just a sales conversation. The commitment is to give people value, to leave them better than we found them, so that when they walk away, it didn't feel like they just got sold for 30 minutes or 45 minutes, however long it is, but that they very clearly have walked away with a couple of next steps that they can take to move their business forward. And all of these things that are done, I'm talking about all these at a high level. Every single one of these things are, you can do them really badly or you can do them really well. And so the recommendation is to not, just like you got training in whatever it is that you do, or you have this gift, or you created something that you deliver a service, is to also get training in a strategy, the whole strategy from soup to nuts, and where there are templates that you can follow. Okay, you got this scripted template. You're going to try it out and you're going to customize it and make it your own, so that it's unique to you, but that you're following a proven system that you can both feel good about, that's going to be effective, and that's going to feel good for everybody involved. Because the last thing we want to do is, we don't want to try and use a selling formula that feels like hard sales or feels like it's something they taught insurance men in the 70s. We want to make sure that everybody feels honored in the process. So I could go on and on and on about this stuff forever, but there's essentially that we have to look at how are we attracting, how are we creating our message, how are we attracting, and then how are we converting those people into a yes.
Yeah, I like the clarifying stage. I think that's so important for a lot. And I do agree with you that a lot of people miss that phase because they're so excited to just be living their calling And they get excited with that and they think, well, my excitement should be enough. So the clarifying phase, I absolutely 100% agree with you. That is so crucial to any business that you have. What do you do? Who do you do it for? And why should somebody care? Why should they listen? Well, what makes you the authority? And I also find that people are kind of embarrassed to talk about what makes them an authority. You know, oh, I had this experience. Oh my gosh, that's powerful. Why would you not be talking about that? Well, I just don't think it's that important. So how do you help somebody move through that, the discomfort about talking about their past, about what makes them an authority in their space?
That's a great question. When I talked briefly about the clarify phase, I mentioned the client attraction code. That's just one part of 3. The other part, one part is vision, and we could talk about vision all day long, but, obviously you have a vision or you wouldn't be here. But the second piece is so if client attraction code is actually the third piece, vision being the first piece, the second piece is around beliefs. And when we decide that we're going to show up and we're going to be in service to other people through our work, we get beaten down with all of our conditioning. This is the human condition. One of the biggest things you're going to have to move through is the inner game work. The am I good enough? All of those messages that we got as children. It is an emotional journey. It is something that, many of you who are listening who are struggling, you're in the middle of it. You've been through it. What do I have to offer? Who am I? I'm not good enough at this. I compare myself to my teacher that taught me this work, that's been doing it for 15, 20 years, 40 years in some cases. So all of that comes up. I don't want to be bragging, it's like, it can go on and on and on, right? So we have to work through those things within ourselves. And to be honest with you, there's no template for that.
No.
In our programs at Thrive Academy, we do both at our Client Attraction Summit, which is the first event that, like the 101 event that people come to learn from us, as well as the upper level events that we produce. We do that deep inner work because it's, we do something called breakthrough coaching, as well as a series of visualizations and powerful community exercises to help people move through this. And I remember, I was actually thinking about this. I remember being at CEO Space and many years ago, and there was this exercise. I don't know if y'all still do it. I think we've called it the angel exercise, where there was some work around like identifying a belief that is really sabotaging, that really kept us from moving forward. And it's funny because I feel like talking about the process of it is not going to really do it any justice, but I will say that there was an experience that we had, and we do something similar to this in our programs, of actually being affirmed in the opposite of that belief and being willing to step in. And I just remember when I did this work, it just like tears and tears and tears, cleansing, beautiful, healing tears. Not to scare anybody off from the work, but I think it's a beautiful process to go through. I often say that business is one of the, the most extraordinary spiritual paths that you can be on.
True that. Bernie says nothing will grow you more than growing your business.
Yeah.
Another spin on that. And I just so believe that. Because when you run into challenges, you think it's external. I need to get somebody better in the seat, or maybe I need a system in place, or maybe I need to go with this platform. And no matter how much you try on the external, it's not going to move, because something has to happen on the inside. Who are you being in this experience? How are you showing up in this experience? What's the energy that you're bringing to the table with what you're trying to accomplish? What is the belief system? Because if you're pushing, and your mind says, it ain't going to work no matter how hard you push, but you're going to push anyways because you think, if I could just push past that thought, you're just fighting yourself. You're in this tug of war, and the outside will show with no results, or you're slowly getting there, or challenges continually show up. So this journey of owning a business, starting down that path, I can't stress that enough, to pay attention to what's going on inside of you. Mm-hmm. And it's like in layers. It's layers. You do a little work on the outside, you run into something, you got to do some work on the inside. You move ahead, you got to do some work on the outside, something happens, you need to do some work on the inside. So there's this layering process of growth when it comes to business. And I really like this idea of how you simplify and create this content in a formatted way so that it's digestible, it's not overwhelming. You have it step by step. Here's the steps that you need to do. And it's not going to be cookie cutter. There's a lot of things that won't be cookie cutter. But what I'm hearing you say is that you're providing the structure to at least get them on the right path, headed into the right direction. They have a place to start, and they'll make it their own as they exercise in your content, they experience your content, and get immersed inside of your community.
Yeah, and I'd say one of the real key pieces there. So in our experience, if we work on different levels, there is the emotional journey of it, and acknowledging that and doing work on that level, because everybody's going through it. Even, at the level that we're at, we own a multi-million-dollar business. I still do work on my own leadership all the time. I'm really in it right now with things that are going on in our own community and in the world, and really like, who am I going to be about this, and how do we lead our community? And so there's that constant work on the inside to really show up as the best leader that we can be. And that leadership starts at all levels. You're starting your business, you've been in business for a while, something's still not working. We continually grow our leadership. And that's the beautiful spiritual journey part of it. And then there is the work on the outside that we do, like we get the templated script, for example, and then we need, and there's learning in group, right? The most efficient and effective way is to learn in group, and then to also get customized private support. So in our programs, we always have private, Thrive business coaches assigned to our members so that they have somebody they can work out, like, how does this apply to my business? And so I think we work on those three levels of, doing the emotional work as a community, and then doing the business training together, and then also getting that customized one-on-one support. And that seems to be a really full package for people.
Do you focus on spirituality? Is
Absolutely.
that a component?
It's such a thread in our work. It's really such a thread in our work. And what's fascinating to me, personally, my husband and I have an array. I actually lived at a Zen monastery as a Buddhist monk for a time, and I took a sabbatical for my master's degree. When I didn't say earlier, but I was a licensed acupuncturist and a professional coach before I got into this work. And so, our background tends to be a little more in the, Byron Katie work, or Reverend Michael Beckwith, some of the American Zen work that's out there. And I can name a few others. But the interesting thing is that, it's all really about love, and it's all really about coming from love, and about showing up in love, and really coming to that place of, rather than pointing fingers and making wrong, like really stepping back and looking at how we can be better in this situation, how we can do better in this situation. And the interesting thing is we have people from, very diverse backgrounds coming into our community. So, which always surprises me. But I think that common base of love being the basis of our spirituality really draws a lot of folks in. Yeah.
I mean, if you're setting out and you know that this is your calling and you're here to make a bigger impact, there has to be a spiritual component to it. And yes. I've said it before, I don't care what your spiritual practice is. Nobody really cares what that. It matters to you. What is that? But you've got to have some sort of spiritual connection, because we're human beings having a spiritual, we're human beings having a human experience here in this dimension, this realm, and we're here to make an impact. I truly believe that. And I also think that when that piece, you've got that spiritual piece in alignment, that things tend to fall in alignment a bit easier. The solutions show up, the right people show up, who needs you shows up, who you need shows up. And I think without that piece, it's just a little bit harder.
Absolutely. I will tell you, okay, so I'm going to tell you a little story here. I was invited to a mastermind with a bunch of other leaders in the coaching industry. And we're sitting there, and this is several years ago. I have a feeling actually that there were a couple of other CEO Space faculty members there. I'm not for sure, but I'm pretty sure some of them I met at CEO Space. And, these are like really sophisticated internet marketers. And they asked me, because for the past, I don't know, we've been doing this for 16 years. We've led our client attraction summit, I think 82 times now, had over 10,000 people come through. In general, getting between 375 to 450 people coming to this event every year. And they asked me, how do you get that many people in the room? And I said, to be honest, I think most of it is prayer. And their jaws dropped open, like, what are you talking about? I mean, the reality is that, the strategies that we use, we get a lot of referrals. We really are committed to doing great work, and we ask our community for referrals, and they love the community, so they want to invite people in. We do a lot of strategic partnerships. People call them JVs in our community. In the coaching industry, they call them JVs, joint ventures. But the reality is we have organizations that send people to us because we are the perfect next step for what their graduates need. And, we do our own email launches and things like that. But it feels to me that so much of what happens is the help from the invisible beings and the friends that are out there, like that prayer of really calling in our people. But I think that if we just do that in a vacuum without learning the strategies and without being smart marketers, it's not going to work. It has to be a synergy of, like, I'm showing you that I'm putting in the work and I'm asking for your help. And I'm mystified by the whole thing. I just know that it works. And I know that, it's like, how do we get that many people to come to events? It blows my mind sometimes. And I really do give a lot of credit to the spiritual realm in that way.
Yeah, and to kind of piggyback off of what you're saying of, I don't know how it works, it just works. I feel that same way about healing trauma as well too, and overcoming some of those beliefs that I don't know how it works, but once you integrate and begin to heal those traumas of the past, things just happen better in your life. Your life becomes easier. You feel better. You're not so hard on yourself. You have more compassion and self-love and more empathy towards yourself, which then reflects to other people. You have more compassion for them, more empathy towards what they're facing. And you're just softer, kinder person when you can first start with yourself. And so this belief component that you help your people with, your community with, what are some of the things that you've seen come out of just that practice alone of working on and paying attention to the inner belief systems that we carry and bring to the table?
I have seen that when people work in conjunction, both the outer game of learning the skills and the strategies and the templates and the tools, as well as combining that inner game work of, an example, going from the belief that when I'm selling, I'm harming someone, to when I'm selling, like to actually have a system of sales that feels good, that's honoring, that's respectful of people, that isn't pushy, that is in balance, where we're using all 5 elements: connect, serve, acknowledge, be curious, give people a choice. To have that combination, I have seen people have their very first $10,000 month within a 30-day period of getting this kind of a breakthrough. I've also seen people who have been bumping up against a particular belief for a couple of years, and they finally get that breakthrough. And even just in April, one of our members, she just quite hadn't gotten the part around how to hold a potential client energetically in the dancing with concerns conversation. A lot of people call it overcoming objections. I feel that our language is so powerful and so strong that I can't use that language to describe that conversation. It's got to be the people's concerns are valid. I want to hear them. I want to honor them. But she finally got through that breakthrough of being able to not be stuck in her own stuff when she was having that conversation, and be 100% over there with the other person. And she had a $58,000 month in April in Corona times, like while we're in the lockdown, like people were flipping out saying my business is going to fail. We've had members who have had their best month ever, March, April, May, because they've just learned how to adapt. They have these foundational principles. Sure, maybe their way that they get their phone ringing, client attraction, maybe that strategy had to change and they had to learn how to adapt there. Maybe their service delivery had to adapt, but they've got the foundational principles and they've done the inner work. So I love when people have that breakthrough and it's like things suddenly pop for them.
Yes. Yeah, they pop. That's a good way of explaining it. It does feel like it pops. It's like you break through something, and there is a pop in your life. There's a pop energetically. There's a pop with your body, with your mindset, but it's not like a loud bang. It truly does feel like a pop. That's a great way of explaining it. All right, so we've got a few more minutes left. Let's talk about what our members can expect from your class coming up about how to attract new clients.
Great. Yeah, I will share some strategies that you can use immediately. I talked about that strategy of the free consultation.
Right.
So I'll go a little more deeply into how do you deliver a consultation that both provides value and also moves people closer to saying yes if it's a good match.
Okay.
And I'm going to share about our 5 elements of heart selling. So this is our system that I will tell you that the idea of serve, just a little quick background, the 5 elements comes from my background as a licensed acupuncturist, where in Chinese medicine, there are 5 elements that we see all around us: fire, earth, metal, water, wood. They each have a quality. I'll go through those and how to use each of those qualities in a conversation so that everybody feels good about the conversation. You're likely to get a client or a referral out of the conversation, and that you can be using a system that you know is you're in your own integrity, and you don't have to feel like you're being pushy. So I'll share about that. And I'll share a little bit about dancing with concerns and some magic questions that you can ask when you're having the conversation about money. Somebody wants to work with you, but money is an issue. And some questions that you can ask that can move the conversation forward. Essentially, I mean, I feel blessed because my background as a coach taught me how to coach other people to get what they want in their life. And this formula is based on a coaching model of really asking really powerful questions that allow people to talk themselves into working with you if it's a good match. And because it's more about standing for someone to have what they say they want in their life, as opposed to trying to sell them on your thing. So just a key background, like this is not, when you're in a sales conversation, we call it heart selling, like heart in your chest, not hard selling. When you're in that conversation, it's really about them. It's not about you. And how do you shift into that perspective? So you're able to be like a channel and just show up fully in service to that other person, to leave all your stuff behind and move through that. And I'll tell you, it's one of the greatest services that you can provide to someone, whether they sign up with you or not, where they leave, like you leave everybody in a better place. And many people will want to work with you because of the way they feel in your presence.
Sharla, where can people find out more about you?
The best place to learn more about us is to go to learn about the Client Attraction Summit and what we have to offer there by going to giftfromthrive.com/CEO space. giftfromthrive.com/CEO space. And you'll be able to learn more about us. You can read our bio, learn more about what we do there. And again, I'm looking forward to teaching at the forum.